They had, it's gonna have an ice last night when we left, right now it's 34 degrees, we're also 51. Yeah, I better be here. It's normal here. Plus, SKSU's football team is way better than the Huskers. We're 0-2 right now. Our season opener was against Ohio State, so that could have. So I could care less anyone on the Huskers.
Test, test. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
We'll begin in 1 minute. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening. Welcome to the November 10th session of your Brookings City Council. Jake, would you please record council attendance?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. If you can, please respond present when you hear your name called, as we are not all in the same room. Bacon? Councilmember Bacon, are you present?
Present.
Brink?
Present.
Collins?
Present.
Corbett?
Present.
Niemeyer?
Present.
Tilton Burn?
Present.
Wendell?
Present.
Okay, thank you.
Council members, if you can, mute yourselves when you're not speaking, it'd be much appreciated.
Well, first off, happy birthday to the Marines today. Any Marines, we want to make sure you had a good birthday today, and yeah, that's it. And on the Veterans Day Eve, thank you to all veterans, Joey, and thank you for your service to our nation. Okay, council, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing none. Council comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Brink?
Collins.
Collins?
Aye.
Corbett?
Aye.
Niemeyer?
Aye.
Tilton Burn?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Bacon?
Aye. Aye.
Anybody have any idea how we stop all that feedback?
I think that what may be happening is someone may have called in on the phone as well as having their computer audio live.
Okay.
The trick would be to disconnect the computer audio and mute the speakers on that device.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'd open public forum. Anyone can speak to the public about a topic that's not on the agenda tonight. We have our first volunteer here. If you'd introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Councilman, Councilwoman. My name is Brian Finch. I am the Vice President and Executive Director of the South Dakota Pheasants. I am a native of Brookings. I guess you could call me a bobcat rabbit if you want to, back in the day. Present with me today is our owner, Cheyenne Ackman, and Courtney is our Chief Officer of our entity.
Welcome.
The South Dakota Pheasants are the 18th out of 20 teams in the Women's Tackle Football League. We are a women's professional sport calling Brookings home. And we're very excited too. Why Brookings? Why not? Sioux Falls has everything else. I will be moving, along with Ms. Ackman, I'll be moving back to Brookings. So I'm very excited for that. I can't get Nick's Hamburgers anywhere else, so I have to come back here for that. So Cheyenne has some literature for all you council members, Mr. Mayor, business cards. Anybody in the public who wants some literature, you're more than welcome to get some as well. So basically, the South Dakota Pheasants, our mission is to empower women's sports, leading through community service on and off the field. We want to get very heavily involved with the community of Brookings, with the campus, with the schools, with the Boys and Girls Club, with the local government, county government, and yes, state government. While we're home in Brookings, this will be a South Dakota entity. Our colors actually spin off more of SDSU a little bit, no favoritism there a little bit. There's a little bit of USD in there too. So, our first year, our inaugural year will be April of 2021, of next year. Ironically, with SDSU playing their football season now in the spring, this works out very good because our season starts April 10th. We are away that day, SDSU is at home. the following week, SDSU goes away, we could play at home. The last thing we want to do is compete with South Dakota State University. So that's a little bit about the local team, what we want to do. While we're home in Brookings, we want to involve the entire state of South Dakota. We actually have another tryout coming out Sunday this weekend over at Grace Point Church. Governor Noem was to attend that, depending on the elections, and we all know how that went. So she will not be with us this weekend. So we are trying to get her back after the holidays, first of the year, her and some of your senators in Washington as well. When we do that, we will invite council members and Mr. Mayor to a luncheon to be held at the new Comfort. I think it's called Wilbur Square. So, with that being said, we are very thrilled, very excited to come to Brookings. And then we learned some news not too long ago that
Sir,
Councilman Collins.
sir, if I can, could you speak into the mic? We have some people
Oh,
at
sure.
home that
I'm
can't
sorry.
quite hear you.
Sure. We just received some news that I ran past Councilman Collins over here recently. The league has asked us to host the National Championship Week. What does that mean? So essential to the NFL, we have our Super Bowl, our Combine, and our Pro Bowl all in the same week. All teams across the country, players and owners and coaches are invited to Brookings that week actually. And then while the two top teams go at it on a Saturday evening football game, the coaches and the scouts will talk to the other girls, and then that following Sunday would be the All-Star game. There is talk currently right now of having our All-Stars in our league versus Team Canada or Team Great Britain. That's not exactly worked out yet. So what we're looking at for that is the league wants to partner with the community of Brookings and the businesses to bring in extra revenue to Brookings. I know it's been tough with losing hobo days and some other things due to COVID, due to the pandemic. We're not asking the city to carry out the burden of hosting or even providing things for free. We are looking for sponsors, our equipment, our travel fees, our general player fees, things like that. Eventually, the girls will be paid. The first year, probably not. As we go on, our coaches and our players will be paid. We'd be looking for example, someone like Daktronic being able to fill in as a title sponsor. Places like that. We've talked to other various businesses. For example, Mike Tejan with American Family Insurance. He's been discussing things with us as well. With that being said, we've also found some group rates from all the local hotels. We've coordinated with Dennis and Scott from Denwell Properties for the new hotel, for Comfort Suites, and then the old Starlight, which is a Econo Lodge. We've also talked to Lauren with Visit Brookings to help coordinate those efforts as well. So basically what we want to do is any restaurants in Brookings who want to maybe cater and provide a meal for the championship game, we would also open that too. So essentially we're help sponsoring and organizing the activities, charity events, and any camps during that week is what we're looking at. We've already nailed down a date after communicating with some from local government people here in town and also with Visit Brookings and the Chamber. So in July, we'd have the 4th of July, the Arts Festival, then the Mickelson Soccer Tournament, I think, was after that, and then we'd be the 4th week in July, which we checked with Visit Brookings. There's nothing going on so that week at all. So if we find an organization or a business or a sole proprietor to help pick up that championship week, Brookings will host this is actually the very first annual. They're supposed to do it in August of this year, but COVID kind of put a kibosh to that too. This will be the very first time Brookings would host anything like this at all. And it'll probably be the last time we get asked because they have to pick different communities across the country. We do know, I think it was ESPN that was coming to do coverage on that, and possibly Fox News or Fox Sports, but ESPN for sure. With that being said, we're thrilled to be part of the Brookings community, and we can't wait to play some football and help you guys get through high school and college and NFL. Questions from the councilman?
Well, Ryan, welcome home, and the rest of you, welcome to Brookings. So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
thank you.
Good evening, Bradley Walker, resident of Brookings. My first remarks are regarding the council meeting on October 20th, the work study session. The SDSU spokesperson responded to Holly Tilton Burns' question on suggestions for preparing for a surge from returning students for spring break. He said we can expect another surge in January like the one in August. His words, bound to happen. My suggestion would be that all returning students must submit proof of a negative COVID test at the time of arrival or go into a 14-day quarantine until they can produce a negative test result. I would also suggest that quarantine be on the SDSU campus. Allowing infected returning students back into the community will cause another surge that we are trying to avoid. If this policy would have been enforced in August, perhaps that surge could have been prevented. This is speculation, but we have proof that what we did or did not do back then didn't work. Many states have enacted travel bans, whereas upon arrival, you must quarantine for 14 days. There is no reason that can't be done with SDSU students. And again, if they test negative, then they won't need to quarantine. Our community did its part to keep the virus under control until the students came back in August, and then they substantially increased and hasn't returned to the prior levels. I would suggest you will see the same thing again when the students leave. Cases will drop and conditions improve until they return and we get another spike, unless a policy such as the one I have suggested is put in place. According to the SDSU dashboard, currently quarantined or isolated SDSU individuals, faculty, staff, students, is 116, but only 3 of them are on the campus facilities. I would maintain that all students that were in that situation should be maintained on the SDSU campus and not be allowed to integrate into and possibly infect our community. My second comment is about the last council meeting we had on October 27th. After we had our debate or the open comments on the ordinance, the council members made their comments, and Mr. Wendell commented that the overwhelming majority of feedback regarding the mandate was for the mandate. They weren't the loudest voices, but they were the most consistent and the greatest number. I would dispute that. At the Swiftel meeting, council was provided 2 petitions signed by Brookings residents. The results of those petitions were 2,218 against the mandate and 518 for. That is not an overwhelming majority of feedback for the mandate. It is basically 4 to 1 against. And we all saw the turnout at the infamous red shirt meeting. Active cases have continued to climb since the mandate. On October 1st, we had 104 active cases. On October 31st, we have 412. So obviously, masks are not the answer. Thank you.
Okay, ready for Student Association report?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I am once again Zeb Johnson, here on behalf of the SDSU Students Association to give the SI report on this wintry evening. So first, in observance of Veterans Day, the Senate did not meet last night. Similarly, we have passed legislation recognizing November as Military and Veterans Appreciation Month. Additionally, on campus, we've been working with dining services in an attempt to bring back healthier dining options on campus. One final update in SA business is that we finished up our civic engagement campaign in the election with an election night watch party in the union for our more civically engaged students. We ended up with about 45 participants, which is pretty good for an event like that. In university news, SDSU has launched the Test Before Turkey campaign to encourage students to get tested for COVID before returning to our home communities. Given the extraordinary efforts by students, SDSU, and the community, we want to encourage positive public health practices in this last stretch of the semester before returning home. That's all I have tonight. Are there any questions?
No?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you again for what you're doing. Anybody else have open forum? Okay, I'll turn it over to our CFO.
Good evening. So we'll start with the CFO report for the third quarter. The first slide, as we all know, are the revenues of January through September. The first column is the budget. The second column is the at 75% at this point of the game. Then we have the actuals. Then we have the difference between the actuals and the budget. So favorable is the positive number, unfavorable is the negative. So what we start seeing here, first and second penny have been favorable as of the end of September. Pretty much flat, but 0.8%, which is good given our environment right now. Second penny and third penny are a little bit down, although they have getting better in this quarter. They're still down. Third penny about 12.9% to budget, and bid tax is about 16.1% below budget. As a total, the sales tax, it's pretty much flat at 0.3% negative, or $34,000. It is important to note that these numbers do include the settlement of $144,000. Without this settlement, we would actually be around 1.6% lower than our budget. Property tax, which is the last 1% here in the second last row, has been pretty much as expected, targeting 0.8% favorable for the year as of the end of September. So the chart on your right just shows how we've been doing year over year and versus budget. So year over year, we're down 0.4% versus at this point of time last year, and we're about 0.3% below budget. Again, this is worse than our previous year's performance, but given our current economy, I would consider that to be a positive result. Moving on to the next slide, if we look at it on a quarterly basis, the charts on, the tables on your left side have the collected and then the adjusted. So the only difference between these two is your second quarter amounts. The collected one include that $144,000 settlement, which brings the second quarter performance at about 4.3% deficit on a year-over-year basis. If we go down to the adjusted and we remove that 144% to truly understand the true economic impact of COVID in our economy, we were down 8.2%, or $300,000. Now, third quarter is a different story. Thankfully, we've been able to reverse that. So third quarter, we ended up 4% better than last year, or $157,000. The drivers were the construction, wholesale, trade, and retail industries. Now, the hospitality industry, although has shown material improvement, it was minus 20% in July, minus 5% as a whole in August, and it's plus 12% in September. And these are results from the previous month. That is important to note. So the September number is actually for activity that happened in August and so forth. So although these numbers are better and are encouraging, we would like to invite the community to continue supporting our establishments, our local establishments. We've received early October numbers from September's performance, and they are not as encouraging as what we're seeing here. If we move on to our budget, our general fund, which covers our operational activity for the city, as you know, our departments came with our own COVID budget, which was lower than the past budget because we didn't know what to expect back in March. So as a result of all our leadership team, our staff just managing to that budget and being very mindful of their expenses, we're currently sitting at a surplus of about $2.6 million to the past budget. which is about 61.7% of actual spend, again, compared to a 75%, which we should be at this point of time. The only department that it's over budget is the city attorney department, and that's for the high level of litigation activity that we had this year that wasn't planned. Other drivers of this surplus are vacancies that we've had in the city departments, as well as the closing of the recreational facilities during the summer. That said, we did kind of like save on or reduce the expense because we weren't open, but also the revenues were lower than expected for those recreational activities. If we look at the other side, our revenues right now are sitting about a 1.7 million higher than expected. This is mostly driven by the COVID CARES Act refund of expenses that we've been getting through the state program. And I have an update later on how much and how that's going as well. Any questions on the general fund performance? All right, if we move on to the CIP fund, we're currently sitting at about 24% of expense or $4.9 million surplus. This is mainly driven again by us proactively reducing the capital projects that were non-critical to make sure we weren't running at a deficit at the end of the year. That's about $1.4 million. Most of these projects will be carried forward to next year, so we'll use the surplus funds from this year to next year. We just weren't able to reactivate them this year due to timing. The other surplus is driven by our debt payments. They're due in November, so $2.2 million will be paid, and that comes out of our CIP fund as well. So on and all, our cities right now as a whole, including all the enterprise funds, at about 55% of expense or at $11 million surplus. This is a little misleading because there's a lot of end-of-year activity and accrual of expenses. But again, I think that the message here is like there are no red flags with our budget, and we're tracking to better than expected in our revenues. Any questions? So if we move on to the Swiftel Center, on the left side, we have the P&L, and I think that the message here, if we look at the third column, right now the Swiftel Center is performing at $134,000 better than the original budget. They did were reducing their budget, and they were given the direction to reduce 15% of their expense, just like any other economic development agencies in town. But given that their PP loan grant, their cattle shows, they're coming up with very innovative ways of getting more revenue, like they've been disinfecting the city facilities with the current equipment, and they've also done a lot of expense reduction. They're tracking positive to budget, and they're actually, the fourth column here is, well, how are they compared to last year? And they're $123,000 better than last year at this point of time. The highlight has been the cattle shows, obviously, in July. They were very successful in terms of revenue for the town and also for the Swiftel Center, capturing about $310,000 of revenue when a typical July for the center is about $70,000 of revenue. That said, year to date, the Swiftel Center has experienced a material loss of revenue, about 34% or $1.3 million. But they've also been able to hold their expense down or reduce their expense by 20%. And as of now, if all things being equal, the Swiftel Center will end on budget for the end of the year. That said, this comes with a price, and they've been implementing a lot of cost reduction initiatives which affect the full-time personnel. So now the Swiftel Center personnel are wearing many hats, and they're so that they can execute on the current event that they have. And I would really like to take the opportunity right now to give them a big thank you note, because even despite being reduced in staff, they are successfully, and we've been getting all these thank you notes from all the events that they've hosted. They keep doing an excellent job with a lot fewer full-time staff there. Also important to note that they have reduced their time, their weeks. They'll be closed for 1 week in November and 2 weeks of December, furloughing some of the full staff as well. And that's just to be able to meet our budget this year. In addition, we're reevaluating our 2021 budget because we don't know what first Q is going to look like. So we're evaluating that and make sure we track our expenses as well. Any questions on the Swiftel Center? All right. So that said, well, how does the economy, how was the economy in the third quarter, and how is it looking going forward? So according to First Midwest Wealth Management, After a really steep decline of about 32% on the second quarter, the third quarter was increased dramatically, 25%, and this is domestic for the entire U.S. And again, you see 25% recovery from the previous quarter, but it comes from a very low base. So even though it's good, it's still not. It's still at an overall deficit. In the third quarter, the recovery is expected to be 5% in the fourth quarter. Now, the Midwest Economy Index, which it estimates quarterly growth at a monthly frequency, was 4.3% in September positive and 1.55% in August. And so this is just a positive trend that the economy is growing in the Midwest. Looking further ahead, the conference board shows 3 scenarios how we're going to end up for the remainder of the year, and then how does 2021 look like. So we have the upside, the base, and the downside. And these are all based on main assumptions. So the upside, it's saying that the 2020 will contract at a 2.9%, but then the 2021 will be at full recovery as of January with a 7.1 growth, annual growth at the end of 2021. The base scenario shows a contraction of minus 3.5% for the full year. Fourth quarter is expected to have a 1.5% growth, and then the 2021 is supposed to have around 3.4% growth. The main assumptions here is that the growth that we have experienced stalls a little bit due to high levels of unemployment and just elevated savings rates for the people, and they're not spending, basically. The downside, it's estimating to close the year at minus 6%, and then next year the recovery will be a recovery, but it will still be a recession of minus 2.6%. The assumptions here, it's a large resurgence in COVID-19 cases. No additional government stimulus until Q1 2021, delays in the coronavirus vaccine, and a contested U.S. presidential election that affects our consumer and business confidence. So those are the scenarios, and we're trying to factor in, well, what are we going to do with this? So our next slide shows, well, the city, given this macro and our local economic factors, the city provided some guidance of how we're going to end up at the end of the year. For the first and second penny, we remain at an 8% contraction. We want to be conservative, and we will continue managing our expenses to that. Our 3B tourism tax, we had previously estimated a 40% contraction. It's been rebounding, so we're changing our guidance to a 25% contraction to the remaining of the year. And our bid or hotel tax, previously forecasted a 60% contraction. Now we're at a 40% contraction for this year. After we factor this in and all the other revenues that the city is expected to receive, we believe that the general fund and the CIP funds will end up at a surplus of $683,000 and $1.5 million, respectively. All things being equal, all trends remaining the same. It is important to know that this surplus is mainly driven by a lot of initiatives and projects that were delayed. So we're hoping to be able to, because they're critical and they're still important, to carry forward to next year and funded by these surpluses. The 3B and the B funds are still expected to close at a deficit as of now of $52,000 and $48,000 respectively, and we may need to use reserves for that. There are enough reserves to cover for these deficits at this point. Any questions? All right, so next is the update on how are we doing with the Corona Relief Fund progress report. And so what this chart is showing, the total allocation of $5.5 million that the city of Brookings was granted from the federal government, we've currently submitted $2.3 million of submissions of expenses to be reimbursed. Given the restrictive nature of the process imposed by the state and only being able to reimburse expenses and not long-term solutions, we're estimating that we will only be able to recover $3.5 million, and that is including BMU and the hospital as well. We're collaborating with them to submit reimbursement for expenses. So as of now, we're going to be leaving $2 million on the table. Lastly, I'd like to give an update on the City Council priority project list. Of available balance is $4.8 million before the approved projects. the city council approved projects that we have currently on record is the indoor rec, the food bank, the interchange, and the parks master plan. After these projects, we're at $2 million and 45,000. So after factoring that, we're at $2.7 million of available balance after the approved projects. 2 of these approved projects we've already taken action, on the other 2 we've not. Then we factor in the primary projects, and after factoring the primary projects, we are at 109 balance for the city council priority project list. It is important to note that we have scheduled a study session, I believe, in second quarter for this to come back to city council after we're able to close year and figure out how much we have available, and we can reevaluate these priorities as you see fit. And I believe this is the end of it. Any questions?
Council.
I'd like to go back to the COVID relief fund.
Yes.
We were offered 5.5 million from the governor, correct?
If that's what was available to us,
Approximately,
yes.
it's available. And so far, we've been able to retrieve 1.7,
Oh,
correct?
1.7 we have in
As
the
for
bank.
the-
We've
for-
submitted 2.3
Right.
for reimbursement.
So reimbursements that BMU and the hospital would get, for example, what would they be able to retrieve for?
It's sort of the same as personnel that has had to be dismissed from work due to COVID, so they get reimbursed by that. Some of the PPE as well.
Okay.
Some of the equipment for the hospital, I believe, was able to be reimbursed by that as well.
Are we being reimbursed for extra time that our health providers have had to put in, like OT that they would normally not be doing?
So the challenge with the hospital is that they're getting so much, they have a lot more access to other relief that we just want to make sure that we don't double dip. So
Right.
they're very, very conscious of that. So they know what they can submit with us, and they're managing it, and we just pretty much help them submit the portion that they haven't submitted somewhere else.
Okay. And as far as for BMU, what would be some of the things that they would be reimbursed for? For example, I know that we were offered all this money and we're not able to get a lot of it. I mean, we're going to be lucky if we get a little over half of what was offered to us.
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of stipulations to most of this. It has to be COVID related somehow. I get that. But just for example, what are some of the things that BMU was able to get
So it's the
reimbursed for?
same. It's so restrictive that BMU, for the most part, and Ashley can correct me if I'm wrong, is like PPE and personnel expenses. Nothing else. And trust me, we've been extensively having meetings, and we push back, but
Right.
it's been very hard.
Okay. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor Corbett?
Yes, go ahead.
My questions are actually also on the COVID relief fund. I'm just for public knowledge, I'm wondering if you can explain a little bit about what the city has been granted refunds for, and maybe even some of the projects that we've proposed that have been denied by the state for the allocations.
Sure. So mostly the main refund is we're getting reimbursed for all of our first responders' salaries from March to December. So that's the bulk of the refunds that we've gotten. This includes PD, E911, and I believe fire. Is that correct? Yes. And so that's the bulk of it. The other things that the city has been able to be reimbursed is all the PPE, staff time due to COVID, and so forth. But the main chunk is that, and some equipment, but not for all. For example, if only people that are 80% or more of their time are in front of a computer can get reimbursed for a laptop. Not everybody. The things that I comes to the top of my head that have not been able to be reimbursed, for example, the library is outside of their scope because they didn't consider the library to be an essential for our community. So anything from the library is not getting reimbursed. Any infrastructure projects, and we wanted to install touchless water fountains at the library. And they said, we are not funding any infrastructure projects. We would rather fund water bottles than do that. And so the HVACs at the Swiftel Center, even though the Swiftel Center, it's an emergency plan hospital for the community, they would not fund any infrastructure projects for it as well. So basically the guideline and the most no is they claim that it has to be reasonable, but there's a very gray area on what reasonable is and so they're being very vigilant about that. Now, we've had numerous meetings with them, and the reason why they say that they're being so strict is because they claim that the federal government is going to come back and audit everybody and their grandmother, and that they want to be in a good position. That they don't want all the cities to have to return the funds once they've spent it. Other states are just giving away. They would have given us the $5.5 million and said, document it and make sure you're following the guidelines. They're kind of like helping us comply with all the guidelines, if you put it that way.
If I could, I would just add a couple of other things. So the public does know we did make request for a small business loan program, other incentives for non-for-profits, and all those times we've been denied. And so what we've tried to do is keep the money here local as much as possible. You know, I'm thankful for Eric and Ashley and their staff because they've been told so many times no that they still go forward and ask for additional funds. One example is for technology upgrades for this facility and your meetings to go virtual. And that was denied as well to an extent. But at the end of the day, we are grateful that we are receiving $3.5 million, which will help us out in the future. It's just unfortunate that we are going to have to send $2 million back when we could utilize that throughout our community.
Yeah. Also important to note, they've always said no revenue replacement, so we cannot help offset, for example, if 3B and the B tax declines, it's a no-no.
Okay. Councilman Wendell?
I had a question on slide 3, which was the tax revenue report. I just wanted to confirm what you had noted, and for those that might look at these slides at home, the report for September activity is actually based on August activity. Is that accurate? So it's not necessarily a reflection of no home football games in September. We won't see that until the October report. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct. They're a month behind. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Rangel? Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
And Ashley, thank you. Okay, let's go into contracts and change orders. Ask the Todd Langland, Director of Solid Waste Management, to speak to Resolution 20-087.
Evening, Mayor. Evening, Mayor.
Todd, don't take it personal. Everybody's walking out, okay? No.
Sometimes I have that effect on people. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before is a resolution awarding the contract for our farm cropland at the Brookings Regional Landfill. There's approximately 120 acres of land, pretty much located on the north side of the landfill. We received 4 bids from the bidding process, and James Meyer from White, South Dakota was the high bid for $227 per acre.
Okay, council, entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Any council comments? Seeing none. Jake, please call roll.
Collins,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Jeez. In the control room, is there any way we can turn those volumes down? I don't know if we can. I know we can on these mics. I don't know if we can otherwise, but okay. Thanks, Jake. All right. Thanks, Todd. All right. Now, our city engineer is going to speak to a couple things here, but Resolution 20-95.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and City Council. This item is awarding bids on city cropland lease in the Weiss and Freeland additions. And so the city held a bid letting. We own 10 acres in the Freeland addition and 30 acres in the Weiss addition. So we bid this area out for a 1-year crop lease for 2021, and it'd be renewable for additional year in 2022. And we received 2 bids. Our high bid was with Lyle Boothie for $170 per acre. And then following this resolution, we will hold an intent to lease to private person that'll actually be at the December 8th meeting. I realize tomorrow's a holiday, so I'll miss my publication for the November 24th meeting. So we'll hold that in December. So we recommend approval of the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Public comment? Seeing none. Council comments or questions? Please call a roll.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Okay, resolution 20-95 is approved. And as long as you're sitting there,
Okay, this item, actually, if we can fast forward to the next slide, I printed two of the next item and neglected to print this one. This Resolution 20-096, awarding hay bids for Section 21, Township 110 North, Range 50 West, which is an acreage that we have west of the Brookings Airport. We have approximately 85 acres in that area, and we did receive a bid letting on the Tuesday, November 3rd, and our high bid is with Lyle Boothie for $111 per acre. This would be a 2-year lease and then renewable for 2 additional 1-year terms, and if both parties are agreeable. And so staff recommends awarding to Lyle Boothie.
okay, thank you. Entertain a motion to approve.
So
In public comment? Seeing none. Council comments? Please call a roll.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Corbett.
Aye. Okay, resolution's approved. And as long as you're sitting there,
Okay, thank you. This last item, action on Resolution 20-097, awarding bids for city hay lease in Section 11, Township 109 North, Range 50 West, which is located near the intersection of Main Avenue South and 32nd Street South. We held a bid letting November 3rd with three bids, and Lyle Boothie, again, was the high bidder with $52.50 per acre on this hay land. And this would also be a 2-year lease and then renewable for 2 additional 1-year terms, and staff recommends approval.
okay, thank you. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Okay, public comment? Seeing none. Council comments?
Question, Keith.
Yes, Councilman Niemeyer.
Jackie, is this is the land that we've set aside for wetlands mitigation, correct?
Yes, yeah, we
Yeah.
have.
Okay, and this is just south of our existing wetlands that we have, correct?
It's just, yes.
It's on the south side of
that
32nd. We've got
conservation
some of that.
parcel.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Please call a roll.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Resolution 20-97 is approved. Thank you, Jackie. Now going to first readings. Call on our CFO for introduction and first reading on ordinance 20-24. And I guess, Ashley, you're coming up. If you'd introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Ashley Wrench. I'm the Deputy Finance Manager. The budget amendment we're bringing forward tonight has 3 parts. Part 1 increases the expenditure budget in the engineering department by $26,000 to utilize leftover FEMA grant funding from a project that was completed under budget. FEMA has given the city permission to utilize these funds for approved alternative projects, and one of these approved expenses was a drone for just over $15,000 that will be used for inspections of hard-to-reach and open areas within the city. FEMA pays for 85% of these expenses, and the city is responsible for the remaining 15%, and the city's portion will be funded by the city manager's contingency fund. Part 2 of this ordinance increases the library's capital expenditure budget fund by $100,000 for a boiler replacement. This was identified in the 2019 facility condition assessment as a top priority, and it'll be funded by the City Council Priority Project Fund. And finally, Part 3 provides $500,000 of budget authority for operating expenses incurred in our COVID-19 expense account. These expenses are offset by reimbursements from the South Dakota Local Government COVID Recovery Fund, and they are accounted for in our general fund revenues. I also wanted to note, as Eric said, our public safety payroll expenses for our police and fire and E911 employees are reimbursed as well, and those reimbursements are reflected in our revenues for those respective funds, and those expenses are already budgeted, so there's no need for an amendment for those, and we're expecting those personnel expenses to be about $3 million of our total allocation. The second reading of this ordinance will be at the meeting on November 24th. Thank you.
Any council comments? As Ashley said, November 24th, we'll have second reading and action. Thank you, Ashley. Now, public hearing and second readings. Have our Community Development Director, Mike Struck, speak to the ordinance 20-23.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and members of the audience. Mike Struck, Community Development Director. Ordinance 20-023 is an ordinance rezoning 6 lots on the east side of Fox Run Trail. They're highlighted up there for you. It consists of 2. There's one that's a split zoning between a R1D, R2, and then there's also some R1D. And their proposal is to rezone all 6 lots to an R3, which is a multifamily apartment type district. However, the applicant and owners of the lots are proposing a twin home development along there, and they want the R3 for consistency of setback purposes to maintain uniformity along Fox Run Trail. The Planning Commission and the Development Review Team both recommend approval, and I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Okay. Any public comment, council comments?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No comments? Please call the roll.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tiltonburn,
Aye.
The ordinance 20-23 is approved. Next ones, I'll call the CFO for the action on resolution 20-088. And Ashley's coming up.
So for this resolution, South Dakota state law allows municipalities to place outstanding invoices for snow removal and lawn care on the special assessment roll for collection. We have 5 invoices for an overall total of $2,620 that will be assessed on their property taxes in 2021. This resolution approves the assessment of these invoices, and staff recommends approval as presented.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any public? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tiltonburn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Okay, resolution 20-88 is approved. And Community Development Director Mike Struck's back up here.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 20-089 is a resolution amending the project costs associated with tax increment district number 1. TIF district number 1 is the one that was created for the research park and included the infrastructure within the research park area. Boundaries actually extend much further out than the actual research park. As part of the project plan, the total project costs that were included within the TIF district was $4.399 million. Due to a favorable bid climate, the city has expended close to $2.5 million to date. With this project plan amendment, staff is suggesting that we add additional project costs, but we're not changing the actual dollar amount. It would just allow us to benefit and recapture a potential upwards of $1.9 million from the TIF district. And so we would utilize that. A couple of initial projects, there's some work on 10th Street that is within the district boundaries, as well as 25th Avenue, that those street repairs need to be accomplished, and those would be city costs. So this would be an opportunity to reimburse the city. In addition, we would look at, in the next few years, some of the roads out in the research park will be ready for a mill and overlay, and those costs would be eligible for reimbursement as well. The other part of the amendment is for whatever reason, when the plan was originally put together, it had a 15-year duration date, and state laws allows 20 years. So we would recommend that we extend that out to the full 20-year time frame. With that, I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Also entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Council comments or public? Okay, please call the roll.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon.
Aye.
Okay, the resolution's approved. You're on a roll,
Stay-
Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Resolution 20-09, increment district number 9 project plan. This is the TIF district up in the Svennis Industrial Park, anticipating project improvements to add 24th Street, which would be on the north side of the DOT Highway Maintenance Facility land, as well as that Block 11. We're anticipating additional costs for street construction and storm sewer and drainage improvements, as well as some work that may need to be done on 32nd Avenue to accommodate potential upsizing of drainage, and then the potential of also upsizing any drainage ways or the pond that is in the southwest corner of Lot 1 of Block 10. We're estimating at this time total project costs of approximately $1.5 million. Those are a little uncertain at this time because we have not fully engineered the project yet, but we want to make sure that we provide enough costs to cover our expenses. So with this, I would stand for any questions you may have on the project number 9 plan.
First, let's have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Okay, please call the roll.
Collins,
Aye.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink.
Aye.
Okay, resolution 20-90 is approved. Mike?
One more to go. 20-091 is the number 10. This has been an ongoing project. This would be for the 15th Street South and 7th Avenue South improvements, street improvements. There's some water, sewer infrastructure that would need to be installed in conjunction with this, and a large component of it is drainage improvements. When this is all said and done, Lot 2 that is shown on the map is part of that workforce project that was approved through the RFP that would be made available for development. And then parcel number 3 will become drainage improvements with a large retention pond in that area. And then 5, 6, 7, and 8 will see potential for some commercial improvements, and then a little bit of private sector residential development on 12 and 13. One thing I would caution you with this one, the current estimates of the project are roughly in the ballpark of $3.3 million. The early projections on the TIF indicate that this will not pay off all of the costs associated with it, but it has the potential to at least reimburse the city upwards of 50% of the total project cost. So one thing to caution you about going into it is don't anticipate that the TIF will reimburse 100% of the costs. The city, when it's all said and done on this project, has approximately 90% of the frontage along the project. So it's an opportunity for the city to utilize TIF, to reimburse itself, to allow those funds to be utilized elsewhere in the community. I would stand for any questions you may have.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I had a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
I wondered about the trail that currently goes right in the middle of that parcel. Is there a plan right now for how that one piece of the trail gets rerouted, or does that just go away?
those are some of the design considerations we're looking at, whether we handle it with signage and kind of a crosswalk type situation, or if we, look at rerouting the trail further south, closer to the intersection, and then crossing 7th Avenue, getting to the west side of 7th Avenue, and then a trail leading up to the north that would connect with the existing trail. Some of those details still haven't been finalized at this date.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Someone raised their hand. Okay. All right. We have a motion on that, don't we, Jake? Okay, thanks. Okay, no public comment, please call the roll.
Corbett,
Aye.
Niemeyer,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Wendell,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Brink,
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Thanks to everybody that's worked on the TIF and this whole project. This is going to be great for Brookings and affordable housing and everything. So, okay, I'll turn this over to the city manager now.
Thanks, Mayor, City Council members. The city traditionally funds the downtown at sundown every year with 3B funds. This year, the Chamber chose not to fund or host the downtown at sundown to minimize the spread of COVID. The community together to this event, but also a lot of foot traffic to the downtown. These funds were given back to the city. However, this chamber is requesting these dollars to be reallocated for a small business gift card program. Approximately $23,000 is being requested from the chamber, and the chamber president and CEO Kelsey Doom is here to speak more about the program and the request from the city.
Move to
moved.
approve.
Okay, moved in second. Okay, sorry, Kelsey. So you got your bodyguard with you there,
Good evening.
Ashley.
Yes, she's gotta keep me safe. Good evening, everyone. It's fun to come to you here tonight to chat about something really exciting for the community. A couple weeks ago, Ope, you asked if there's ways you can help, and here we are. So we are introducing a program tomorrow morning to the public that's called the Gift Card Give Back. What this is an opportunity for businesses and individuals to help our small businesses through this really hard time. A few weeks ago, I came and presented data from our surveys that said 25% of businesses would be closed within 6 months if conditions were to remain the same. We did a supplemental survey to that, and same data came back. It went down to 20%, but still it's too high. So what we're going to do, we had the goal, obviously the chamber wouldn't be doing its job if we had this information and didn't do anything. The chamber team had the goal to raise $50,000 of a pool of matching funds that the public will then go into an online shop and purchase gift certificates to participating businesses who sign a form and agree to abide by a certain set of terms and conditions. When they purchase that gift card, it will be doubled using that matching fund pool. Purchasing will go on as long as the pool of money is there. Once it's exhausted, we will quit the matching portion of the program. So we're very excited to say that we surpassed our $50,000 goal within a week and a half, which I think really shows how much support there is out there for this and the need, the true need. People like myself and different business owners, we haven't been impacted quite as much as others. I have my health. I don't have children I have to worry about homeschooling if they have to quarantine. I have a roof over my head, a steady job. And I kind of have this survivor's guilt, So there's a lot of us out there that are able to throw $50, $100 to this program. So with that, we did have this funding. I called my friends at the city and said, what can we do? What can we get some help with? And there was this funding that we did not accept for the downtown at sundown. We spoke with the other 3B entities and got kind of a consent from the group to say, instead of allocating this $23,294 in 2021, why don't we put it here? All consented, and now here I am to get formal approval to get this funding for our pool of money. question.
Any questions?
Mayor Corbett?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Holly. I just want to say I don't have any questions. I just want to commend the chamber for putting together this effort. I think it's absolutely fantastic to see this amount of support for our local businesses, and I really hope that the sale or auction of those gift cards happens really quickly, and then I hope they get used very fast. The holiday season is right around the corner, so I think this is great timing, and I just want to commend you for the work done on this.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been
Mayor
a
Corbett?
definite group effort.
Okay, go ahead.
Mayor Corbett, this
Yep.
is Patty. Yes, I just want to echo what Holly said. This is so creative. It was money we had planned to expend anyway, and that it will help our downtown businesses is just exciting. I can't wait to get my card. So thank you for your creative problem solving.
Thank you, Councilwoman Bacon.
Patty, I'm sure they'll sell you several cards. You don't have
We'll
to just
get
buy
you as
one.
many as you need, Patty.
Yeah.
Anyone else have
Mayor
questions?
Corbett?
Yes, go ahead.
I actually, this is Holly again, and I just had a question pop into my mind. Kelsey, you said that you raised the $50,000 rather quickly. Is there maybe any plans to replicate this again further in the future or increase that match amount?
Yeah, so the goal is to double our initial goal. So a portion of this fund will actually be used. Tomorrow, we are putting out a video that I hope it can, Paul and I had talked about this briefly, but we hope it can kind of be a step in the next direction of reconciliation between businesses and the city to challenge the community using $10,000 of this money to say, we'll match everything that the community gives up to $10,000, and that $10,000 will come from this 23. With that, we'll hit our $100,000 goal. So if the need persists beyond, the holidays of 2020, we can certainly try it again. We'll just see. Time will tell. Hopefully, we won't need it.
And if folks do want to donate to that matching fund, what's the best way for them to do that?
What's the best way to donate to the matching fund?
Oh, apologies. Yeah. So honestly, just shooting me an email, kelsey@brookingschamber.org, pledge your donation, and then we'll take cash, check, Venmo, PayPal, whatever you want to throw our way. We can get a donation from you. All of our donors are listed on our website, so we have people giving as little as $20 up to, we had Maderi Acres give us a call the other day, and they're donating $10,000 to this. They were in tears making this decision, and it's been phenomenal. It's just been the most fun I've had in this job since moving here, for sure.
I received the chamber emails, and I had seen the list of donors that you've already been able to gather. It was very impressive. I would encourage the community to go take a look at that list and see who the individuals and businesses are that are supporting this fund. And I would encourage everyone to add their dollars to their fund if they're able.
Yep. And also, you see these businesses on the sponsorship list on people that are giving, and we have a pretty awesome small business community that these businesses are constantly giving, and now it's our turn to give back. And so I just want us to really recognize those sponsors on that. And when it's time to pick a construction company or a insurance agency, those are the kinds of lists that we should be going to and supporting those that support the community. That the money is staying here, and this is such a tribute to that.
Excellent point.
Keith?
Councilman Niemeyer.
Thank you very much for doing this. This is innovation at its finest, as far as I'm concerned, trying to help out our fellow businesses in town. I just love the whole idea. And I think this is going to, hopefully it just turns into a tsunami of help for businesses that we truly want to keep. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Jake, if you'd call the roll, please.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Tilton Burn.
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Bacon.
Aye.
Brink.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Corbett.
Aye. Thanks again for all your work on this.
Thank you, everyone.
Fantastic. Okay, City Manager, turned over to you for a discussion.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. With the increase in cases here in Brookings, the organization here has made the transition to as many virtual meetings as possible. This was done to reduce the risk to staff and volunteers. Currently, all city council meetings are held face-to-face with virtual options of written submissions or virtual comments. Staff does bring this item before council to determine if all virtual option is desired by city council. The state has allowed this year the use of virtual meetings during COVID-19 pandemic because of the circumstances we're all seeing here across the state. Council does have the following options: continue as is, where some members of the council can attend in person and virtual, and the audience can attend either in person or virtually, or write comments that can be received into record. Council can attend in person and all of the public can attend virtually, or council meetings can all go virtual, similar to what the school district does today, or a different option that council might recommend. City staff does recommend an option that ensures limited risk for the public and staff, and therefore the option of going all virtual is recommended by staff. But once again, this is your meeting, so it's completely up to council what you would like us to do.
Okay. Council, everyone should have received an email from the city clerk about 2 weeks ago. So we had these options, and I know Joe Dell did a nice job putting it in the paper. I believe it was yesterday. So what's your thoughts, council? Councilman Wendell.
Well, I have a couple of thoughts. I'd say initially, one of the reasons that I had an interest in considering moving to all virtual city council meetings is I think we've had some challenges this fall in terms of folks in the chambers complying with our mask mandate. And when it's appropriate to enforce that mask mandate, obviously we have certain exemptions in that mask mandate that make it challenging for us to ask someone directly to put a mask on when they're in the chambers. As a counselor, I feel like we're on the dais and we have some distance from those that are in the gallery that either are unable to wear masks or are unwilling to wear masks. But I do worry about our staff who are forced to be here week after week, in particular in meetings when the council chambers are full, and there are a number of folks who are not masked. And so I'm not certain exactly where I would land, although I'm supportive of us moving entirely virtual if that's the direction staff is supportive of and the majority of the council is comfortable with it. I think we're in a better place today than we were in March and April when we were trying to conduct virtual meetings. I don't think we had caught up technology-wise yet that created the kind of public transparency and access that would have been appropriate at the time, which is why we were kind of trying to muddle through in the spring. But I do think we have kind of advanced our ability to still hold transparent and accessible meetings with the public in a completely virtual environment. And so that was my primary concern, was just that in particular our staff were not continued to be put into high-risk environments outside of their control. One question I might have is if we made a decision to move to an all-virtual environment, have you thought about at what point we might revisit that long-term plan, or how will we, what will the publication look like, I guess, to just make sure folks really understand what our plan is? I'm thinking down the line in particular when certain existing ordinances are approaching their sunset, and how will we make sure that those meetings that we know lots of folks may be interested in being engaged in, we're really clear in what our planning is.
Yeah, I can see us doing a couple of different options. First, state law does require us still to have a place where people can view the meeting and then, of course, make comment. So we'd make sure that we did have an opportunity for people to make comment if they would still like to. It doesn't have to be filmed per se, but we would make sure that those voices are heard. So number one, we do have that option of Granicus where people can write in. The second option is virtual, and then of course we'd have some type of hot mic, if you will, so that people can make comment during those meetings. The other nice nuance of going virtual, right now you have some people in-house, some people online, and you get that mix of sound often, where if we're all on the same platform, it seems to work out a little bit better. Though some people's equipment are a little off, and that's where we'd have to work hard to make sure everyone is in unison. Steve, do you want to add?
Let's let the city attorney speak to that topic, please.
I think just a couple of comments. Our notice would need to kind of provide the parameters of, is it just this meeting, or will there be several meetings? What time frame are we looking at a virtual meeting? So that would be one thing. And the other idea would be, and maybe it's included in the points that Paul is making, but allowing the public to fully participate by listening and commenting and could be at a central location so that, they could certainly access from home, but the possibility of accessing it from these chambers or some location here in this building, might be a possibility. So if they don't have a connection at home or a computer or feel like they want to come down here, we probably could make that arrangement for them to do that.
Okay, I'm sorry, was that you, Councilmember Tilton Burn? Had the
It was
question?
Patty.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilmember
That's
Baker.
all right. My question is, if we go to this virtual format, is it all going to be audio only? If it is, I don't think that is a good option. While I don't like having staff exposed there in chambers, if the community doesn't feel that they can see the council having their conversations and making their decisions, I don't think that will play well. So that would be my concern is, do we have the option of everyone being video conferenced into a virtual meeting?
I'm looking at the assistant city manager, and he's shaking his head yes. I believe we've done some of these things before virtually. We just have to make sure that the format is known by all council members. And we can also put the presentation online as well as you guys are talking throughout these issues. So short answer, yes, we can make this happen.
Mayor Corbett?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I'm to a point that the city attorney made. I'm wondering what solutions we might be able to offer for those individuals who perhaps don't have virtual connectivity, whether they don't have reliable internet or a computer that they can join with. Would we be still able to provide a maybe more public option where they could participate in the meeting?
Steve answered, but our thought would be to have some type of hot mic here so that if they wanted to come to City Hall, they can make comments publicly as they traditionally have in the past. I think with the virtual options, there's often a phone number that they can call. Jake, is that correct? Yes, a phone number they can call as well. So they can call via the internet, telephone number, come in here, make a comment as they always have in the past, or make a comment on Granicus. But Steve, maybe you can answer a little bit further.
Well, I think that we'd want to establish for transparency and for full public participation, particularly, during these times when we have some the possibility of extending COVID restrictions, that we set the standard fairly high in terms of public participation, so that we have at least one or more, public places to participate in the meeting. And that's what our open meeting law would contemplate. Might not be quite required given the overall plan that we would have for a virtual meeting, but I think we should strive to do that for public participation.
Thank you, Steve.
I think if we were able to provide those options, I would be supportive of going to a virtual setting. I do think what Patty mentioned is worth kind of looking into, and so if there was a hot mic in a public location, I think we would want to make sure that we have whatever visual still projecting in that room, as well as a visual available online for those who maybe are attending virtually. I do wonder as well, if there is a hot mic in a public space, how many staff people would we be impacting still? I assume we would still have to have that space staffed and someone there to work on IT issues.
Yeah, I can certainly comment on that. One of the things that we had talked about initially as staff is still to have IT here in the chambers. They have to run all the audio video equipment, but they're actually outside of this building or this room, so they wouldn't be exposed. So they can turn the mic on and off as they see people come in.
Okay. The assistant city manager had a comment.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. One of the options that I envision that we could do as far as that visual component goes is we do have the large screen behind council members where we do publicize the agenda. We would likely have the opportunity that if council members were virtual as well, cams up there. So if members of the public are coming up podium there, they would be able to look directly essentially at the council members. And I don't want to tax our IT staff, but we may be able to do some sort of webcam back at the podium, so it's kind of a two-way dialogue there as well. So that would take some work, but I think it's certainly something that would be accomplishable, as well as possibly having a dual screen up there of having the meeting agenda still present with the visual component of the council members and staff as well.
Thanks, Jake. Anybody else? Yeah. Councilman Collins?
Yeah, I guess I was old school thinking that it'd be okay if we all kept the way it is. Until Nick brought up the safety of the staff, and that does bother me. So I'd be okay with going virtual if that's what everybody else decides.
This is Councilmember Brink.
Yes, please.
I understand the goals for this. I can tell you for myself, I have been hesitant to hear anything that's happening in the room. And tonight is kind of the same way. My concern for a long-term direction with all virtual options is that there's something qualitatively different about standing up in a room physically in front of others and speaking your piece than online behavior. And I feel that sometimes an online virtual meeting, while it's a very close and realistic substitute for something in person, it may not lend itself to be the best vehicle for the business of public administration and government. And so if we do this, I would like to see it as temporary as possible and not be a direction towards something long-term. I think the public does have a right to see us live in real time and in person as we go about our business. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Niemeyer.
I guess I'm kind of comfortable with what we have for a situation now. I think we have the option of being virtual or in person here. It takes the human touch out of it if we don't have people here in the building, in a meeting. And as much as we already have isolated ourselves, I think if we can possibly stay status quo, we have the option of being here or not. I've been able to call in a few times when I've been working out of town. We are doing the best we can to limit how many people are in the room. And if we have to have another separate room for people to come in to make comments, if we have a large group item, I really kind of like so far what we've done so far. I hope the staff hasn't felt that they've been unsafe or have been put in a predicament where they feel they've been, their health might be compromised. I hope that's not the case. But I think since we are elected officials, it is a public meeting. I think people that watch us online and on our live meetings are going to lose some of the effect of good government. I guess I would be real tentative doing all virtual completely.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Corbett?
Yes, go ahead, please.
This is Holly again, and I just want to say, to Ope's comment, I do think that we as council members have had the option of joining virtually, and I've been very thankful for that. But I'm not certain that members of the public and our staff have had that same opportunity. And I guess for me, that is why I would entertain the idea of going to virtual meetings, is to provide a space where members of the public who don't feel comfortable coming into the chambers, or members of the staff who don't feel comfortable, could still present or voice their opinions. So if we were to stay with the status quo, I would really urge us to find a way to provide that kind of opportunity to the public and staff as well, to join in virtually like we've had the comfort of doing.
Councilman Niemeyer.
So Holly, I would agree with you on that. If we can, and elaborate more on what we're doing now and add more technology to this, which I am not good at, period. But, if we're able to have you up on the screen, in the corner there, it would be so much more, because I haven't seen you for 4 months. So it would be good to see you. I know that you've been online, but it's been difficult to not see your shining face, and it's so much more personable if you were able to tell me right in front of me than to listen to you on a microphone.
Keith, if I can.
Yes, City Manager.
One thing I would comment, these are great ideas, especially the idea of having staff join virtually or remotely. The only concern I have is those meetings that are maybe a little contentious. I asked our staff at the one meeting to help direct people as they came in because we were so overwhelmed with people. I had our police officers here as well, directing people. And so right now, tonight, that's an easy fix. But when we do have those large meetings, that's when it gets a little bit more tougher to have everyone virtual. But I would just like to throw that out.
Okay, thank you.
Council. Thank you.
Councilman Wendell?
It seems like if I'm reading the mood, we're maybe not at a place yet where we'd be ready to make the decision to move virtual. But I did think there was real value in having a public conversation around it. If we see cases escalate or we see our situation evolve quickly, I just didn't want us to be in a position where 1 week we have to move to virtual and folks feel like we didn't have kind of public conversation and deliberation around that movement. So I think this is really positive. We're talking about what it would look like and what might make us move in that direction and how do we make it as transparent and accessible as possible. So it sounds like maybe as a council, we're not quite ready to move there yet, but we're doing a lot of thinking about how we, if we have to do that, how we do it successfully. And I know staff's already put a ton of energy into what an all virtual format would look like. So I think this is a helpful conversation for the public, even if we don't make this movement just yet.
Okay. Thank you. And that's why, we have a discussion, not as an action item tonight, to your point. So moving forward.
Mayor Corbett?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Patty again. I would agree with that. I think that the format we have right now is working if our staff feels safe. I know only the council members who feel as comfortable as possible are physically coming, but I think if we just were able to add the video of those who are calling in up on that big screen in the back, I think that would add a missing element to continuing to do it this way, because I anticipate that there will always be at least 2 to 4 of us who will be joining virtually until we're done with this pandemic.
Okay. So just for a point of discussion, how would it be if great thoughts and comments here, if you share those probably to the city manager and he and his staff can kind of put together a little plan and we can look at it and have further discussions on moving forward? And does that sound agreeable to everybody?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I see everybody else's head. I see heads going north to south here, so I assume everybody that's called in has too. So thanks for these great comments. And Paul, thanks to your staff for their work on this. This has been, it's something we need to talk about. So let's jump into COVID-19 update.
All righty. Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. The following report was taken from South Dakota Department of Health, professionals from SDSU, the hospital, and Avera and Sanford. Brookings currently has 484 positive cases within the report a few weeks ago. Brookings had 376 active cases. This last weekend and today, Brookings realized large increases in cases. Hospitalizations across the state has hit record highs, but Brookings has seen a slight decrease. Currently, we have 5 using the COVID beds within the hospital and 0 at the ICU within the Brookings Hospital. Recent activity over the past few weeks has resulted in increased numbers, which we realized once again this weekend, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with hospital numbers as we move through the next few days to a week. Deaths due to COVID in Brookings still remains at 9. There have been 1,827 positive cases since we started this pandemic. Approximately 1,334 cases have recovered, and 7,032 tests have occurred here in Brookings County. The Brookings 7-day positive average test is 19%. We did get notice from the hospital that the 7-day running actual average is about 25. So there is a little bit of a discrepancy there. The hospital does give us the most accurate information. Brookings County still is in substantial spread. As a state of South Dakota, we have approximately 16,266 active cases, and there are 607 currently hospitalized, which is a new record. The state of South Dakota has lost 540 South Dakotans. The mask mandate for all indoor businesses and public places is still in effect until the end of December. And this most recent chart was something that provided by our local professionals. When you look at the chart, we do compare Brookings with the top 10 cities and populations across the state of South Dakota. Brookings is ranked number 1 as the lowest in the state. We have predominantly been either the first or second lowest community in the state, which leads me to believe that some of the efforts, or a lot of the efforts that our community is making is paying results. So with that, that's the extent of my report, but would ask that residents continue to be vigilant, to wear masks, social distance, and practice good hygiene. One other last comment that I would make, December 1st is South Dakota Gives, and would encourage people to consider giving to local nonprofits. We'll have more information probably at our next meeting. With COVID impacting our community and communities across the state of South Dakota, non-for-profits are impacted more now than ever. And so once again, strongly encourage people to consider thinking about giving to non-for-profits if you have the ability to do so.
Excellent point. Thank you.
Can I ask
Councilman Wendell?
Can I ask a couple clarifying questions on this? I see the city listed, which is, I think, helpful for folks to know which county we're talking about, but those are still county-wide numbers, is that right?
Correct.
And then I just want to make sure I understand. This is kind of like golf. You want to be highly ranked because that means you have a lower number of cases
Correct.
relative to the other top 10 most populated counties, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So here, as you see Brookings at the very top, we have the lowest, over the last 17 days, lowest 100,000, which we're at 96. You see Sioux Falls, who's talking about a mask mandate tonight. They're at almost a third higher than us. And so predominantly we've seen Brookings in that number 1 or 2 spot across the state. Of course, this changes as cases come in. But what's been nice is to see Brookings at the very top. You know, at the last meeting we talked about how we're looking at some of this data, and this is a very positive way of looking at some of the efforts that you as council members have made and the reactions of our residents here in the community.
Any other comments? Okay. On topics for future discussion, looking ahead to next Tuesday night, November 17th study session, Jake's putting together a really excellent Engage Brookings app, right, Jake? Okay. And we'll have a discussion and presentation from Swiftel, have an update on the Bob Sheldon Art Project, and then SDSU Stormwater presentation. So it's really a great presentation. I think you'll enjoy it. Anything else for the future topics you'd like to visit about or put on the agendas? Okay. So we're going to be going into an executive session, and for the media, there'll be no action taken when we come out of executive session. So pursuant to South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, we'll go into executive session for discussing the qualifications, competence, performance, character, or fitness of a public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee. The term employee does not include any independent contractor. I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
We're in executive session.
Stay safe, Jodelle. Yeah. Don't fall. Don't fall. Don't worry about slide and fall. Yeah.
Okay, we've come out of executive session. This time entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night.